Welcome, everybody. It is time to chat with the Soul Journey Doula. And today, this is going to be a different topic when we talk about end of life. Well, we're going to talk about an end of life road trip to really go and kick off some of those bucket list adventures. And sometimes people take road trips to see friends and family, maybe to reconnect. And then there's all those places, maybe you didn't see Niagara Falls yet or the Grand Canyon, or do you want to do something, and when you know it's the end of life, sometimes you have more gumption to do things that maybe you were a little fearful of as well. So welcome back. How are you, Lee?
I'm good. As you can see, we're finally in our house. We're just slowly getting it put together. So
That's cool.
I'm in my final place
Your
before
bucket list
final
place.
journey. Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yes. This is where she's going to be. You're going to be what? You're going to be composted. We talked about this before.
Well, just wrap me in a sheet and they can dig a hole in my yard because I've got 2 acres of land and a lot of it is wooded. And I figure dig it deep enough.
Yeah.
Me in, that's it.
All right, this is good. See, and as we always say, there's a lot of humor on this show because you can't talk about end of life without some humor. But the road trip thing, it's like we were talking about this with musician Joey Stuckey on the show. He comes on every fourth Sunday, and we were talking about road trip music, summer road trip music. And then we got into the movies, and then I started realizing, I love road trip movies. Obviously, Nancy and I are on a permanent road trip. And then as we were talking, I'm like, well, every time I was explaining the movie, I was like, well, somebody was dying, so they needed to go and do this. So then it dawned on me, we should talk about this because this could be something that someone at their end of life, they want to go on that final road trip before they do the road trip to the sky or wherever we go.
Absolutely. And, the other side of that is that if you don't have the opportunity to get to every place you want to go to, there's also the road trip where you have a relative or a really good friend who takes some of your ashes and it sprinkles you on all the places that you
it's like the Big Lebowski.
Yeah,
we're gonna see. There we go. That's the movie, The Big Lebowski. I mean, and they did the cremation, the ashes everywhere. I mean, that's something that people talk about a lot is taking you to places, and that's kind of cool. And I think it's an adventure for the other person too. It's like a shared journey.
Yeah, and that the rituals are really helpful for letting people kind of come to grips with the passing of someone they love. So it gives people an opportunity to say goodbye in a way that honors the person who has passed. So
you could have a big group tour, instead of a regular funeral.
Mama's ashes, and we're going to sprinkle her around the world.
Get on the bus. Let's go. Get on the road trip bus. Let's go. But yeah, it's kind of cool. But the other thing is the road trip is reconnecting with people. Maybe if you had a little rift in the family, which we've talked about before, and it's like, I don't want to go without seeing them. And maybe sometimes you have to do a pop-up because they may want to see you, suddenly arrive at the doorstep and say, hi, I'm here. And, so that could be something too, right?
Yeah, without pulling the I'm dying, give me a break card.
See, that's the other thing. Yeah. You have to kind of do it naturally, right? Kind of.
Yeah, because who wants to have a pity visit or a
no, that's not fun. No, the pity visit isn't good. And that's actually the thing about the movies is a lot of times in the movies, people don't know that somebody's dying in the movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're like, no, we really need to take this road trip. This is why, let's go. And then partway through, they start to notice the person isn't as well as what they look like.
Yeah.
So
trying to think of the movie with Dustin Hoffman and Jon Voight when he died on the bus. And do you remember that one?
No. I have a new one to go and watch. Oh, I'll have to check that out.
Okay, yeah.
Well, there's Weekend at Bernie's where they took him around.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
That was funny. That's one of my favorite movies.
Dead. Yeah. And then keep doing things like having skiing, the dead body skiing. Oh, we do have black humor, don't we?
We do. Well, when our friend died, the last time we saw him was on like when back in Skype days, right? And and he was living in Mexico, and his daughter found him when she went to visit him. And we were supposed to be there that weekend, and something happened and we couldn't go. And she found him and she calls us in just hysteria, like obviously, right? And he had
Wow.
had a heart attack, and he had had, heart attack, stroke, and stuff like that before. And he was sitting in his chair, right? And he used to watch the TV and yell at it. And it was really fun to do that. We would go down just to yell at things. It was fun. If you ever needed to reduce stress, you just go hang out with him, because it got really colorful too. But it was really horrible for her.
Yeah.
And she's on her own and she's in tears, right? But then what happens? She goes in the other room, comes back out, and he scares the hell out of her because he's still sitting up there like he's there. And it took a while for them to come. You're in Mexico, to come and get the body. And now you're talking about an expat in a different country. Like, that's a whole other thing, right? And so, and his ashes did get sprinkled in places that were not supposed to be. So he did go on a road trip. But so she kept forgetting that he was sitting, she kept, even though she was in mourning that he's dead, every time she would go around the corner, there he was. And so it was this weekend at Bernie's moment, and we all got the hysterics over it. And it's not to be rude, but this happens. This weird humor pops out at these times. So even now, that's all we see is him in the chair, like weekend at Bernie's. And I know he's pinching me right now. I know he can hear that. So it's kind of funny, but it's not, because we'd like him to be alive. But you know, he's here.
Yeah.
I know he is. Because whenever we see something really insane, we know he's watching and laughing. So that is a weekend of Bernie's moment of like, what? So, but that for her to keep going around the corner, and then it would start over a cycle of, grief
Yeah.
and mixed, a
And
lot of crazy emotions.
if we all sat down for just a moment and wrote a list of places that, here's where I've always wanted to go to, and it just hasn't worked out for whatever reason. Like for me, I've always wanted to walk the Great Wall of China. I can picture
Wow.
it, I can see that steep incline, and it's something I've always wanted to do. And my husband has, because he's been there on business, and so he's been able to do it. So there's this, you start saying, okay, so if this is something that's important to me, when am I going to do it? I did that whole thinking because I always said I wanted to do a triathlon.
Mm-hmm.
And 4 years ago, I went, well, I'm not getting younger. It's not, the age thing isn't going the other way. I'm not going to get
Yeah.
fitter. So if not now, when? And so that's a good question to ask yourself. If not now, when? And if you
Yeah.
don't think you're going to be able to do it until, like you slip this mortal coil, then who's going to take you along and do the ashes? And I'm thinking that there are so many road trip movies that either the person is taking their last visit, or
Mm-hmm.
the person who loves them is taking them to places that they wanted to go to, or places that were their favorite. Rick and I have this great big huge map with pins of all the places we've been to in one color
Mm-hmm.
that he's been to and I haven't, and places I've been to and he hasn't. But then there's all of the places that there's a dot of places we still want to go. And he said, whichever ones are left, he wants to leave enough money for our kids that we can say to them, okay, so here's where I want you to go. Now, I totally expect that I'm going to be somewhere planted in my backyard. But maybe they can take a clip of my hair and sprinkle it. Who knows? Who knows? But
Oh
where?
yeah, clothes. You could
Oh,
donate your clothes in places.
yeah.
There's all kinds of stuff you can do that, maybe it's like, oh, she's got this wardrobe. What are we going to do with it? Donate it around the world. Go to a different country, and people need clothes everywhere. So,
Yeah.
shoes, whatever, you can put that in your suitcase like a normal thing. I know that sounds odd, but that's kind of cool. People will be wearing you everywhere.
Yeah. So where would you go? Like, what are the places in the world that you haven't traveled to yet that you say, oh, that's still the place I want to get to?
For ashes, or like do it
Oh, just for
before
you now. Like, what is that
now,
big road trip
the
or
whole thing.
place you want to go to?
The whole thing. Well, I'd like to go to the middle of Mexico, the jungle side of it, Michoacan and all of that area too, to see the butterflies. But also it's like Costa Rica because they've got sloths, and Australia, the whole thing. South America, yeah, all of Africa, the whole continent, the whole
So for you,
continent.
I know, like what I've learned about you, when you say that you want to go to these places, for anyone who doesn't know Lisa, she's not talking about going to the big city. She's talking about going to the
Right.
jungle and seeing some really cool animals and sights.
Yes.
So you would be the one who would want to
And
find the
graveyards.
sloth. Yeah.
And graveyards.
And hold the baby sloth and cuddle it. And yeah,
Yeah,
graveyards
no,
are cool.
anywhere to go around the world for the parks. And that's what we're going to be doing soon. There's a whole new level of our Love Your Parks tour coming up. Just
Oh,
saying,
wow.
like a whole bunch is happening. But yeah,
The
but that's
tickle
the
for
thing. It's
everyone.
well, because Nancy and I have those conversations. Both of us have big birthdays this year, and we both were like, well, how are we going to continue this on? Like, how are we going to do this? And for some reason, we expand whatever we say we're supposed to be cutting back. It goes the opposite way, but it's cool stuff, and we take stock of that. Like, how
Yeah.
much can you do as you progress in years? And I think you can, and it's about working smarter. I mean, and I think when we have all the energy when we're really young, you go for it, right? But it's that's the thing with this road trip thing. It's kind of like the Make-A-Wish Foundation, what they do for kids. See, I think that's kind of similar, and we should do that as adults too. We all
Yeah.
need to Make-A-Wish Foundation is awesome, where they take.
Huh.
Have you heard of them?
Oh, absolutely. You know, a lot
Okay.
of kids go to Disneyland for the first time at their end of
Mm,
life. Something,
yeah.
you know, there's all those places that the kids want to go to and they make the dream come true. So finally
Cool.
stand in the way. Yeah.
And that's
But
something you could do too with a kid is take them on a road trip, depending on their health. So, as a doula, my question for you is, would you help someone with their end of life road trip? Would you help them plan it, or say, okay, well, let's see who we can, help them put this together? Because you always talk about the end of life as like you're putting their party, you're in a party planner, right? The celebration of life. So this would be kind of part of it.
yeah.
Um,
So here's my practical side coming in as soon as you say that. And this is the training is the doula. So the first thing I do is be able to talk to them and see physically, are they able to handle the trip?
mhm,
And you don't want surprises for a family member because someone would have to accompany them. And you don't want someone who's so frail that on the airplane, they finally decide that this is their final airplane ride and it's the trauma that they cause everybody else. So there's all kinds of practical things that need to happen. And then find out how long it's going to take. What is the budget? What are the medical
mm.
practicalities? Now, a friend of mine had her goddaughter had I was either leukemia or cancer, and she was only 17. And her make-a-wish was Italy. She always wanted to go to
Aw,
Italy. So what they did is she was very frail, but they contacted the hospitals over there. The excitement and all of the anticipation, actually, it was good for her because she was able to go over. She went through Venice. She went on the gondola. She had all of these fabulous experiences. But in order for that to happen, I remember listening, and this was before I was a doula, how they made sure that they were in contact with doctors on all of those places so
right.
that if she had a bit of a setback, they knew which doctor who had her records who
Mhm.
could give her whatever, you know, a lot of times it was medication that they could give her so that she was able to go on the trip. So absolutely, I would love to be able to help someone make their final trip wherever they wanted to go and then coordinate it, have
And
everything.
Lee's gonna go and take me.
Yeah,
If you're going to China, I'm coming with you.
I'll push the wheelchair up that really steep incline because everybody who tells me about walking on the Great Wall say you don't expect it to be a hill and it's
Mm,
really steep and it's really hard to
yeah.
go up. And I'm thinking, okay, you know, maybe pick part of the flatter wall.
Yeah. Yeah. Just because I've seen who I watched this show. It was a Ricky Gervais show. You
Oh,
know, we love our comedy, right? And they had this guy. Oh, I can't remember his name, and I can't remember. It was a series, and he went around the world, and he had he's never traveled, and at all. And he's like, well, why the hell are they doing this? Like he had this. It was mental because it's British, right? And he would go around and not understand what these cultures and why on earth are they doing this? Like, what's wrong with this?
there's
Oh,
a travel show right now with Eugene Levy, who did Schitt's Creek.
oh, that's right. We started to watch that. He's
And he's,
funny.
yeah, he's hilarious and he hates travel. So it's kind of the reluctant traveler, but it's exactly that. Like he goes places and what did they have him try? Oh, like, and he's a hamburger French fry kind of guy. Like that's as complex as he wants to do. And so they had raw oysters.
Oh,
And so he put it in his mouth and spit it out and went, not happening.
and that's funny.
Like
That would be us.
it was, the whole thing was hilarious. Well, you've got a seafood allergy. So like
Yeah, yeah,
I
that's
would
not
have
going to
to have
happen.
an EpiPen.
I know, but it's not happening. But even still, even if we didn't, it wouldn't happen. It's weird. It's weird. We're not even attracted to fish at all. We don't even want it. We just don't. It's like not happening. Isn't that weird? Like your body already goes,
Your
no,
body goes, no, that's
that's
yeah.
not happening. It's not happening. But those shows, I think, there was the one where a TV series with William Shatner, Terry Bradshaw, and what's his name? The oh my gosh, he's the boxer, uh, George
No.
Foreman.
Oh, okay.
And they went all over the world. They started touring America. They went all over the world. And it's like, yeah, let's go
Huh.
do these things. They've been so busy with their careers. And you've got to think all these famous people go around the world, but they never really get the chance to experience these places,
Yeah.
because they're working, they're on a press junket. And it's like, you're not really exploring as much. So they did. And it's hysterical because they're trying things and they're goading each other on too. It is fun. Oh, and they had Fonzie in there. Henry Winkler was also in that. It's funny.
You know, I just I love to listen to people who are listening to the program and hear where it is they want to go. I
Yeah,
mean,
we should do this. Let's do a bucket list. We'll do
yeah,
this. Everyone on our social media, type in your bucket list. Yeah. When we post the show, which is, every third Thursday, we're going to ask you, what is your bucket list? Let's make a map, a bucket list map.
you know, and like I've been really fortunate. Rick's career has taken us to places around the world, and we made a conscious decision that we were going to travel. And my brother said, "Well, yeah, that's Rick does really well." And part of it was even when we were struggling and had two kids and everything, it's where you decide
Mhm.
you to spend your money. So like we would make the decision that instead of putting new hardwood floors in, that was kind of the joke when the kids were little. I kept saying, we've got this crappy carpeting that, I mean, how many times can a dog pee on a carpet before it no longer looks attractive?
Yeah.
And so instead of getting that ripped up and getting hardwood floor, there was probably 3 years where we saved every penny, and it would be a decision. we're eating in, we're not going out, and we saved money and we went on a trip as a
See,
family. So you can decide, and even if you are struggling and it's only paying the bills, then make
go to a
a
park.
holiday in your home. Get
Yeah.
pictures, put them up on the wall.
Well,
And you're in Paris.
one lady, and this is something really cool. Nancy was telling me about her, and she got all into it because, we love to make maps on our website, Google Maps and stuff. This one lady went around the world on Google Maps and like made a map of where she would just go down the road. I'm going down, and would pull up the pictures, look at it, look it up, and she made this giant Google map, just a virtual map because she was disabled and didn't have the finances. And she got pretty well known, and she put it up on a website or a blog or something and got pretty well known about this, and off she was like every day, where am I
Travel,
going?
yeah. When I get
I think
homesick,
that's pretty cool. That's a light footprint too.
yeah. I miss some of my friends in Philadelphia. And the other day I called my friend Denise and said, I'm missing you right now. So I'm going to where I used to live.
Mm-hmm.
And I went on Google Maps and went on, the personal view, the person view, and I walked to her place on Google Maps and
Oh,
visited
that's
her
cool.
virtually. And then
That's
I called
cool.
her and I said, I'm just knocking at your door. I've walked to your place and now let's have a visit. So there's so many things that you can
That's
do
cool.
if you can't get on a plane. And I know some people who
Won't.
they travel, but they're terrified of getting on a plane. So there's
Mm.
places that they can't go to because it means crossing an ocean, and unless there's a boat, whatever. So, but there's always a way. Like I want to know, I want to help people get to their
Mm-hmm.
bucket list of
Well,
things.
and here's the thing about travel, right? It's never what you have to throw expectations out the window in travel. Otherwise, you're going to have a crappy adventure. And you have to understand that everything can go wrong. Absolutely everything. So if you can't quite get there, you're going to have to find a different way. And that is what travel is. It's about going outside your comfort zone,
Yeah,
pushing yourself, having that adventure. How are you going to get yourself out of some kind of situation? You
yeah,
know, and
yeah,
things happen all the time. So and that's the fun part of it. I mean, maybe not at the time, but it becomes memorable, and you are allowed to laugh in hard situations. You are.
and sometimes the best stories are of the worst moments. Like I was traveling through Holland and my luggage got lost, and I had to speak at a conference,
Oh,
and so like there was I think it was an hour before I had to get on stage, my suitcase finally arrived. I was without my suitcase for almost a week. So it was a conference where I knew some people. So I had friends lending me clothes.
oh, that's cool. That's cool though.
Only women would do this. Have you ever heard a guy say, "Oh, I really like that shirt. Can I borrow it? I've got a party to go to." Women would do that. Guys would never do that. So I was
Yeah.
fortunate in that situation that I'm a woman, and all of my girlfriends came up and said, "Well, here." And, like I washed my undies out every night for a week,
Yep.
which
Thank God for hair dryers in hotel rooms.
but those are things that if you've traveled enough, everybody has a bad travel story where
Oh,
you're
sure.
bummed and your connecting flight has left by the time, like you were delayed and delayed and
Oh,
delayed, and you get to the one airport and you run to the gate
yep.
of the plane that you're supposed to catch and it is just taken off. I fell asleep in a lounge.
Oh, that's funny.
And I got up to get to my plane and it had taken off. And the attendant who was there, she said, "We called your name like 5 times."
And you're like, sorry. It happens. We go through this all the time. Road changes, road construction, that delays us all the time. So, there's things that happen when you're traveling. Like the one time we were in one of the parks, and it was in Kenya, and our van had a flat tire in the middle of the park, right? These are back in the days where you could actually replace your own tires on the side of the road when you could actually, you know. And so here we were trying to do this tire thing and on a van. And we're all outside going, it just feels like lion country. And literally, we got the tire on, we get in the van, go not even around the bend, and there's a whole pride of lions just sitting there. And we're like, well, that's good. Munchies, so it was just, it's funny, but things happen, and we were fine, nothing
So
bad.
hopefully we're not turning people off from looking at their bucket list.
No, but that's what I'm
On
saying is
places,
like,
but
if you can't
all
go
of
to
these
these
are
places,
adventure.
you can. Yeah. It, all those things are, that happens if you can't get there. Well, at least you're at home and cozy or something. But I really want to bring up what you say about the knowing the medical side of things. There are programs, for traveling. There are programs, there are apps for finding doctors, and it
Yeah.
is so good to have it set up and know, hey, if I need to have a transfusion or if I have an infusion or whatever it is, or maybe it's a shot at, it could be whatever it is. It could be chemotherapy. Are they able to help you as you go across, wherever you are? And maybe you don't want to go across the whole country. It's a big country. Maybe you only want to do certain areas and then go home, or just break it up a little bit too. A little bit is better than nothing, right?
Yeah.
So I love what you're saying about being conscious of the medical side of it
Yeah.
before you go, because it's been a whirlwind for hospitals now. The medical system is, working hard. Let's put it that way. So it's good to be prepared and
Yeah.
have your records ready, have a records bag, like with your passport and all that kind of stuff that you can take with you too. I think
All
that's
the medications and things.
with
Yeah.
so much is online now, you can
Yeah.
do so much online. So it's good to have all that set up, but you can do it. I mean, depending, you can do
Yeah.
those bucket list things about where you want to go, what you want to experience. Maybe you want to go see friends and family. The movie Kodachrome. Have you seen that?
No. So what is it called again?
Kodachrome, film.
All right.
Yeah, yeah. So it was about a photographer, and he was a grouchy dude, man. And they went off, and he made one of his family, I think his son or something. It's been years since I've seen it, and gets him in. You know, we've got to go cross country. This is my last photography thing or whatever. And he was using film. Of course, everything's digital now, right? And he had some exhibit to go to, and through this road trip, people didn't know he was dying, but he was. He was able to amend relationships,
Wow.
between, which I thought that's kind of, a lot of those movies have that part. There's one where there
Yeah.
was a comedian. I think who did it have in there? Oh my gosh, it was so funny. It was Dreyfuss, Richard Dreyfuss. God, it was the other one. And they go across country and doing stand-up shows.
Oh, fun.
One
Fun.
gets him out of the nursing home, and
Well, I remember that. Yeah.
they go and do, like, it's hysterical, and they were hooking up with girls and all kinds of stuff. It was fun. It was fun. So, those kinds of things. And people didn't know how sick they were. The guy was, but he was having a blast doing what he loves, you know? So I think, you, like you're saying, you don't do it as a pity trip. Don't do that. But
Yeah.
go genuinely to make amends or have an experience, and then, people can find out later or whatever, or at the end of
Yeah.
it,
I kind of like what Helen Mirren said, that someone asked her what would you tell your younger self?
Mm,
And I probably wouldn't, but I got a chuckle out of it. She says, I tell a lot more people to F off.
hmm
And so I think part of what you get as a freedom, if you know that there's only a certain number of days left to your life, is that if you are a people pleaser, and I am,
hmm
I think you get to a place where you go, oh, I'm going to please me. And I'm not going
Prioritize.
to please. I'm
Yeah.
not going to try and do things that tick people off, but I'm not going to try and do things just to please people.
hmm
So when you're traveling, you have this freedom. I can show up as myself. I can be authentic. because
Mhm.
if they don't like me, I'm never going to see them again. I'm dying.
Yeah. Well, but there's something about also traveling with the right people.
Yeah.
Because God, to be with the wrong people, that sucks. Like, because you want to
Sounds like
do
you're
things.
talking from experience.
Oh man, yeah, that's how you know you have the right friends and stuff like that. I'm always like, I don't know if I want to go on a trip with you. I'm very yeah, because I'm adventurous and I want to go do things, and it's I can't just sit in restaurants the whole time. Like a lot of people travel and it's just restaurants, and I can't do that. I mean, I'll do a little bit, obviously, and I want my wine time, but I want to go play around in the graveyard. You see this, pull over.
Yeah,
We're
and
weird. I mean,
I've
we do all
traveled with
those
friends
roadside
who like
stuff.
to shop, and I'm not a
Oh,
good shopper. I shop
me
online
neither.
because I
It's
go,
quick.
I need this. I go type it in, I look at a few things and I make a selection. I am not someone who's good at going through stores
Nope.
and rack after rack after rack, and
Nope.
traveled with people who love that experience. And
Yes.
nothing against
No.
them. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
not something that I enjoy.
No, no, but if I see something weird, that's cool. Like that, if I see, walking by a store and you see something that catches your eye, or going
Yeah.
into a gallery or something, then I'm like, yeah. Or if it's a music, yeah. See, we don't buy stuff really. Well, I
Because
mean, we're on the road.
you have to put everything in the car. Like,
Yeah,
why would
yeah.
you buy
So,
something?
and I mean, we're terrible. Like even right now, we're like, we have to go and redo clothing, and it's like, oh, really? Like, you have to realize you've been wearing the same clothes out of a suitcase for like a year, and you're like, they're a little old now. You got to go in and start shopping. And it's odd because it's like, here we are in Zoom, and then we're playing with animals. Then we're in, a swamp with alligators. That's, but
That's-
anyway, but it's fun. I think people doing a road trip and seeing all the crazy, wacky things on the side of the road, the largest ball of twine, things like that, that's cool. But I
Yeah.
do want to say this too. As we pet sit, as so we could do our work in between our park adventures, we talk a lot with travelers because that's who we're taking care of their animals for. And lately, we're seeing a trend of everyone's doing their bucket list, right? They're a lot of times it's mostly, hey, we're retired now, newly retired, and we're going to go see the world. And what we're finding out is, there's a um balance of who you're traveling with, what you may want to shop and he may not. It's like, okay, we'll make sure you have activities that suit, come together on the things you want to do, but it's okay to go do an excursion on your own and
Yeah.
and meet people. Like if you're on a cruise and there's an excursion and you want to do that and he wants to go and do this other excursion, split up. You're going to make friends, and it's okay to have that independence, and it's okay to travel solo. There's no reason for you to not have that solo adventure if that's what you
Yeah.
want to do, you know. So what we're also seeing is people, make learning as they go, as they get back into the swing of travel, right? And one thing we're seeing is people go into a place and they jam pack everything they can do, and then they are exhausted on the trip, and then they start to hate the trip. And I'm
Oh,
like, and see, now to me, I can sleep when I'm dead. That's okay. I'm going to jam pack as much as I can. I am. But I do want to have my time where I can have a cocktail on the beach. Heck yes. Thank you very much. I will do that.
yeah.
That is an activity for me. But so you see this balance of people overpacking it in, but so you've got to kind of think of who you are. And you were talking about the people pleasing. That's what happens. Oh, he wants to see this, or she wants to see this. So I'm going to do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. And then there's you want it to be happy for everyone.
Yeah.
So
But
it's a good talent
especially
thing.
if it's your last trip and this is a bucket list trip, you're at end
Yeah.
of life and you're planning it, it's okay if it's all about you.
You. Yeah.
Okay. And if someone says, well, I've never really liked the Grand Canyon, then don't go.
Don't
I'll find
go.
someone who does want to go because this is about me. And so I really encourage people to, if you're thinking of doing this last trip, then make it about you. It doesn't mean that
Hmm.
you have to be nasty to other people, but like you said, make sure you're traveling with someone who likes doing the same things. If you're going to be dragging along,
Especially your last one, your last trip.
who
Oh, hell no.
complains
You
all
want the
the
right people. Oh, no whiners. No whiners allowed.
no,
No.
no.
If you're stuck in a traffic jam, you need to have someone that's gonna let's play some music, play a road trip game, do whatever, do something silly. You need someone you can spend time with if yeah, that's crucial for an end of life thing. Also, when you're talking about if you're gonna spread people's ashes, do know it's illegal to do in some places without permission or a permit. I just want to put that out there. I think you can do it legally, and I could be wrong. National forests, check it out. National parks, it's a no-no to just sprinkle someone's ashes. But people do it anyway and just kind of sprinkle, and who's going to know? Really? Sorry. We just had a friend. Are you still there? Um,
I am. That was saw this little black cat run
yeah.
across.
Well, he's not that little. Is it? But anyway, that was well done, Zazzles. He wants to be part of the podcast. Um, when you with the sprinkling of ashes, like the Grand Canyon, you get a permit. They have like a whole ash area and burial thing. There's a
Oh,
whole thing. It is actually one of the biggest graveyards in the country, and because people do end their life there too, a lot of times. That's a huge. It's hard, and it's not necessarily good for the canyon. Just saying.
oh, so we're talking about people throwing
They,
themselves off the
yep,
because there's lots of cliffs.
yeah, it's a good place to do it. I mean, it's a for sure thing when you do. When you jump off a bridge, I always go, yeah, what if you halfway make it? Like, you either do it or you don't. Like if you're gonna jump and know that but if you get mangled and you're still alive, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
So yeah, so suicide happens in these parks, but that's not what we're talking about. We don't want you to do that. But
No, no, don't do that as a bucket list
no,
thing. Please don't do it. We don't
no,
endorse. No, we
no.
don't
But
want you
anyway,
to.
the point is the Grand Canyon is a popular place for people. And so I think there's permits or permissions and all of that. Or if you're going to do it illegally, just, make that part of the adventure. you know so I'm just saying, don't come after me. But I don't, a little sprinkle here or there.
A salt shaker full. Like
Yeah,
we're talking about limiting. We're not talking about, like a whole shoebox. So,
yeah. Well, what, Timothy Leary, his ashes, they mixed it with wine. Susan Sarandon drank his ashes at Burning Man Festival and a
ew.
little bit of wine. I know, she's all like, oh, I drank Timothy Leary. And Nancy and I are listening to this going, ew, I don't want to drink anybody.
No, no, that's not something that I want to do. But does
That,
you and I always notice how our conversations, it's like there's so many off ramps and then it comes back on the highway,
yep.
goes off, back on the highway. It's a lot of fun. Hopefully, everybody is aware that we're talking about what's your road trip? Where are you going to go? This is an
Yeah.
end of life, big bucket list, something that you want to do item.
But the
So,
thing too, yeah, but on the cremation side, like you're saying, that's the other side of the road trip. So
yeah.
just be aware of some laws on that kind of thing too. But now, would you help like a person that knows it's end of life time and going, hey, I didn't get there, and I want them to go sprinkle ashes? Do you help them connect with their family and say, okay, this is what, he or she wanted, is for you to do this? Do you do that as a doula?
Well, I could. I haven't, but I
Mm-hmm.
could. And there is a place in Seattle where you can actually be composted. We've talked about that in another show. So if you really want permission to have, now it's no longer ashes, you're actually compost, your nice healthy soil. You can have a box of nice healthy soil instead of a box of ashes, and you can help sustain a tree or plant a flower anywhere in the world with your box of composted
That's
body.
cool.
Yeah. So just another idea. One of the things that you learn about as doula is all of the different things that people do at the end of life. And there's a place in, I think it's Alabama, where you can take some of your ashes. So you've already been cremated, but you can send in your ashes and get it put into bullet casings.
Wow, that's a whole.
So it's kind of one of those things, you can shoot your mouth off even after you've died.
That's
Literally.
amazing. That is a see, that's a thing. I mean, there's yeah, this show we're always going to derail, right? We're all about something. But I mean, but it's really up to the person at their end of life and the fact that for them to have the opportunity to even look at how they want to end their life. And that's what I think is so good about this show is to think about it and to live your best life while you're here.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing about being a doula. It's not about dying, it's about living until you die. And if you're listening to this program, even if you're ill, you're still alive and there's still things that you can do.
Mhm.
So there's never a point during life that I think we should quit living, because so you've been given a date.
Yeah.
Not any of us are given the gift of having a date of when
Mm.
we're going to exit. So if you've got that date, you can say, okay, I've got, like when my dad was told he had 2 weeks, and that was a big shock for us. But in 2 weeks, there was such intense love that came from him and was given to him. That was a gift, because if we wouldn't have had that date, I doubt if some of the things that needed to be said would have been said. And they were all beautiful, lovely things.
Oh,
So
that's cool. That's
yeah.
cool. The date does help. There's a movie, one of my ultimate favorite movies is Breaking the Rules. And it's called Breaking the Rules. Yeah, it has Jason Bateman, Justin
Okay.
Bateman. Bateman, Justin
Yeah.
or Jason Bateman. Yeah, he
Yeah.
was really young in it. Annie Potts is in it, and a couple other guys that you'll recognize. It was a 1992 film, and they went across country. Jason Bateman was dying. I think it was cancer or leukemia or something like that. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen it, but I love this movie. And he went to go to LA to be on Jeopardy. And that was the whole thing. And so they go across, they go camping. They haven't done the camping and they haven't seen sequoia trees. They have, that kind of thing. They got chased by a bear, fun stuff. They ended up on a paddle boat, I think in Mississippi or something. Anyway, they found some little town and they met Annie Potts, and Annie married him. They got married because he'd never been married. Meantime, she was really into the other guy, but they were close friends. And so they married so that he can say he got married before he died because he was very young. He was dying young. And he did make it to Jeopardy.
Oh,
So,
cool.
but he was really going down at that point, illness wise. But it wasn't a pity. We were talking about that. It wasn't a pity thing. It was, I'm doing this. You're either coming with me or you're not. And if you don't, you suck. So,
When we look at all of the movies that are kind of like I'm dying and so I'm going on the trip, there was one, and I'm not being helpful, but it was a guy on an Indian motorcycle. And he did a trip on an Indian motorcycle, bought it. He had always wanted to have a motorcycle. And I think part of the backstory might have been, oh no, you can't do that. That's too dangerous. And then he found out he was dying. He got the Indian motorcycle and did a road trip across America and all the places that he wanted to go to. It was really cool.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's I mean, you look at all the boys on the side. The one girl was dying of AIDS, and then her and her best friend go, and next thing you know, they're at a restaurant or something, and Drew Barrymore's in it, Whoopi Goldberg, and oh, what's the name? Mary Elizabeth Mary Perkins. I may have her name backwards. She was in Weeds. That's a
Okay,
cool
I know who
series.
you mean, and it's not
Yeah,
her.
Mary Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, she's cool. And so she was the one dying, and it's called Boys on the Side, and they end up in Tucson, and they filmed a lot of the movie. Matthew McConaughey's first role was in that, and he was a young hottie. And was it him or Brad Pitt? Oh, whatever. It was, the 90s had good movies, but they go across and they pick up Drew Barrymore because she's, swinging a baseball bat at her boyfriend or whatever is abusing her. And so she's in the car, and I think she was running from the cops. It was crazy. And it was
Oh,
a
it
road trip
sounds like,
movie.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good movie. Yeah, it's highly recommend Boys on the Side. It's one of my favorites too. But those movies show like the adventure and how things can go wrong, but brings people together. And that's the other part of it. And then there's a guy who got on his John Deere tractor and drove the tractor to see his dying brother, who they'd always had a rift, but he wanted to make amends before his brother died or something. Like one of them was dying, but he didn't have a driver's license because he was too old. So he got on his tractor and he drove all the way across the Midwest to his brother.
Cool. Yeah, I was going to say why a tractor, but you just,
Yeah. Yeah. So there's always a way.
yeah.
And you might as well go out with a bang of doing something,
Yeah.
a little unordinary.
And at some point, you have to be able to say, like, if not now, when? If you're not
That's what
going
you're
to
saying.
do
Yeah.
it now, when are you going to do it?
And plan for it.
And yeah, yeah. And, so if you've been given kind of this date, what could you get rid of that would give you the money
Yeah.
to be able to take this trip?
Yeah. It makes you have a better life plan,
Yeah.
so you make decisions accordingly.
Yeah.
Everything would be your decision would be, okay, is this going to help towards this or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, decision making is huge. It's huge. So everybody have a good road trip, no matter
Yeah.
where you are. Yeah. Happy travels for all of it. And even the final one.
Absolutely.
Cool.
So hopefully you can't hear this in the background, but one of the things that we're in a new house. Fire season last year was pretty brutal in parts of Nova Scotia. So what I've done is I've hired someone, and I love this. She's a woman who is a woods person, like she's a woodsman. I don't know what you would call
Lumberjack. Jackass. Jackass. That doesn't sound right. Lumberjack.
Lumberjane.
Jacket.
Yeah. Lumberjane, whatever. But she has her chainsaw and she's taking down these huge dead trees on our property. So we'll have a fire barrier all around our house. So if fire season comes, we'll be protected. So
Very
if you
cool.
put that in the background, that's what's going on.
That's all good. Everyone keep up with Lee. Go to souljourneydoula.com and we'll see you next month. I wonder where we're going to go.
Yeah. Thanks, Lisa.